The Diojo podcast is the infotainment podcast for the skilled trades, where our goal is to help you shorten your dang learning curve. So I'm super excited. Our guest today is a man who needs no introduction. Well, maybe some introduction, but Christopher Stanley is a mentor for insurance adjusters to help them start working in 90 days.
Great Scott!
My follow-up question as you're talking, you talk about the box, right? So we've got Xactimate, and Xactimate is, for all intents and purposes, a glorified. It's a spreadsheet with pricing.
Right. So same thing for us. Yep.
It's a common language, and so I don't know. The majority. I don't know what the numbers are. 70-80%. If you're a roof contractor, it's all basic roofs. If you're a restoration contractor, it's bathrooms and kitchens. Wherever pipes can break. Right? That's gonna be the most common. So that's the most common. But you do, just like you said, there's times. This is a high-end kitchen, and it's got this thing that is not an Xactimate. So on the auto side, I'm sure there's those things, right? New manufacturers. I know my buddy has a Tesla, and when it broke, it doesn't.
Oh my gosh, yeah, no, it doesn't fit in the Ford Fusion box
that aren't
anymore.
In the program, right? So exactly that. That's. I think that's a great point. Is master the basics, right? Like just be clean and pristine on those. And then how do you communicate? So in that PDR program there, can you think of any examples or stories where you had to fight for something, that was outside of the box, and how you communicated that? Or
I'm going to go pick a fight.
Well, even when it's sometimes inside the box, let's be real here. Sometimes you have to establish the box. Sometimes that's the biggest fight, right? Yeah. Is sometimes, depending who you're working with, what insurance adjuster or like for us, we were subcontractors of a body shop a lot of times. So it'd be like you pulling me in and be like, hey, I need you to do the chimney here. And it's like, okay, I'll do the chimney on this project for a general contractor. Cool. But then that contractor's like, no, you can't do that. What do you mean I can't do it? That's how I have to do it. Yeah. What do you mean? And you start having these headbutts. So one of the big things that I encountered right out of the gate, I got the job. They moved me to Colorado. I was already there for a storm. They said, we want you to stay with your family indefinitely. I said, I'll give you 2 months. Ended up being there 2 years. But I go in, they're like, establish a daily program of, we'll be the company that's here. Walk into one of our partner shops, right? DRPs that we're working with. And they're just accusing us up and down. You're stealing from us. You're stealing from the insurance company. And I'm like, what are we talking about? Show me what's going on. And I was like, okay, we have a little matrix, we call it. So you have your standard pricing and Xactimate of what a tile sheetrock costs, or what a typical 4x4 is. Well, we have one on a clipboard for how many dents are on a car based on a panel. And so I'm like, okay, so show me how we're stealing, because this is an agreed upon thing. And she was like, basically smacked it out of my hand. I was like, I'm not using your sheet. That's wrong. I'm like, okay, do you have a sheet you guys use? She's like, yeah, here it is. Same thing. It's the same thing, just didn't have my logo on it. Okay, cool, I'll use yours. All right, now walk me through how we're stealing money, right? Let's establish the box. And so she did, and she just didn't know how it worked. She didn't know that there was things we call markups, and there's a 25% increase if it's aluminum or you don't have access. And so with them, a lot of times it was just establishing the box itself. So we got paid what we were owed. It wasn't even something special. It was like, let's just get all on the same page here with your own rules and guidelines. But my gosh, having that conversation, and even though they're adversarial, trying to turn it to like, hey, I'm on your side here. We're doing this together. Right. And you talk a lot about that in your book, which I loved. And it's like, how do we get the insured back on the road, but yet everybody gets paid so we can keep doing this to help other insureds? Right. Because we can't do it if we're not making money. So I think that you guys, I'm sure, encounter that switch of, cool, let you define the boundaries. I'll let you define the boundaries. Show me your guidelines. Show me what box I have to work in, and let's see if we can come to agreement using that. Then you find that one thing you need and go, but that in our case, that roof rail, we can't do it for that. This is why. Let me explain it. And they're like, oh, wow, we fit everything else. Yeah, we'll make an exception, make a good note, and that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, that's everyone says, Xactimate sucks and the program sucks and the negotiating sucks. And it's like, well, exactly like you said, okay, well, let's break that down. Like, what are they rejecting? And everybody knows, you should know after a while, there's certain, with each carrier, there's certain red line items, right? That's, they may be legitimate.
Hot buttons. They're hot.
Yep. And that's what there's somebody in a claims center, right? That's like got their, just like you said, a metric sheet, and they're like, no. So you got to figure out how to write it legitimately for something.
You can find that box.
Yeah.
They're not blocking the in dollar amount. What they're blocking is, I saw one guy charge $60 more than everybody else for this. We're going to say, no, everybody else charges 50. You can't have 110. So let's stop that. And then, but then within there, what you build is free.
Yeah.
It's as tall as you just got to verify. You got to prove it.
Yeah.
So, but if you're fighting over the little stuff that fits within the box, this is what we found at the PDR side. You fight for the stupid stuff and don't fit within their box, you end up missing out on the big stuff because you've already been arguing about everything. And it was like, literally, we talk about nickels and dimes. Like, that's the side. That's how we measure dents. So it's like you're tripping over nickels and dimes and leaving behind the thousands of dollars.
Yeah,
and I'm like, why? I told my technicians, quit. Don't argue with them on this. We don't argue on size. Give them whatever size they want. If they think it's a nickel, go with nickel. If they think it's a quarter, go with quarter. I don't care if they're wrong, because what I want you to get is these items. These are our big ticket items.
Yeah.
High five.
Okay, for this first break from the Dojo podcast, we're going to try something new. We're bringing in a video from Elon Posmonic. He was on episode 8. He's in the single digits of the Dojo podcast. His episode was titled Extending the Life of Your Water Damage Equipment. And the video you're about to see demonstrates some of that value where on a DHU, when a nut comes loose, he shows how to replace that yourself. So if you are listening, then you just got a real nice musical interlude between segments of your favorite, the Dojo podcast. And if you're watching, boom, you now know how, if you want to try to do it yourself, to repair a loose nut on a DHU or other equipment using plastic bonder. His Instagram page at Born to Repair. That's Born to spelled out T-O Repair. Great stuff on his page, and like I said, he's a poet and a repairsman. If you're in the San Diego area, he will come to your shop and save you money. I guarantee it. We guarantee it. And if you're outside of the San Diego area, give him a call. It's pretty amazing what he can do over a phone call and via FaceTime to help you extend the life of your drying equipment, which is what we all need, right? So get after it. Get after it.
Tripping over nickels and dimes and leaving behind the thousands of dollars.
Yeah,
and I'm like, why? I told my technicians, quit. Don't argue with them on this. We don't argue on size. Give them whatever size they want. If they think it's a nickel, go with nickel. If they think it's a quarter, go with quarter. I don't care if they're wrong, because what I want you to get is these items. These are our big ticket items.
Yeah.
Hey, guys. Oh, big gulps, huh? All right. Well, see you later.
Let's concede so we can get something, the bigger items that actually really affect the bottom line much more. Plus, next time they come back to do one of your cars, they're going to like you.
Yeah. Yeah.
way better experience.
Yeah. Well, and that's, I mean, there's a way to be adversarial and still keep the relationship too, right? Because that's the flip side of that is, we were just talking to some contractors about that. The estimators that think, oh, the adjuster's nice, and sometimes it can be a trap,
They're totally priming you in.
They're drawing you in, hey, why don't you do this and do this? And then pretty soon you realize, like, man, I got nothing left. And so,
well, but it can be flipped, right? So you can do that I've been on both sides of this.
Yep.
And I think part of it is in that book, the PDR Cash Box, I do talk about an X factor. And the X factor in a conversation is the turning point where you go from you guys are opponents to now you guys can have commonality and relate to each other.
Sure.
Maybe that's, oh, you're a Dodgers fan. Oh, yeah, man, I can't believe they made it to the series, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do you know I'm a Dodgers fan? Oh, I saw it on the sticker in your car. Like, oh, yeah, man, I've been watching since I grew up. All of a sudden, there's a connection, right? Yeah. That X factor is what I found that I could turn almost any conversation. If I could find it, there's an X factor there. I got to find that X factor to also to make us equal rather than opposite. And if you do that, I feel like you're going to have a better conversation.
I would say there's there's 10% of your customers. It doesn't matter what, or adjusters, relationships, doesn't matter what you do, what you say, they're just not going to be pleased with anything, and so, especially if you're in program work, it's just kind of like, let's just get through this as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
So
I've been railroaded a few times, not to say it always works, but I can usually get it let's not be enemies by the end. I might not get what I want every time.
Yes.
But let's just not be enemies because I know what they're going through. I know what they're up against. And sometimes, frankly, those people, the 10% you're talking about, they just had a bad experience with somebody, or they're jealous about how much money you make. And that's a huge part of it, right? Yeah. They're like, no, you guys are making too much money doing this. That's the rates. Like, what are you talking about? It doesn't matter. How much do you think I end up with at the end of the day? Yeah. I get paid per day. Like, what are you talking about? I'm not pocketing this money. Like,
Yep.
All